Okay, my objective here is to solve for my three unknown variables, x, y, and z. So I'm going to solve for x, y, and z. And since I have three unknowns and I have three equations, I can do that. So I can solve for my three unknown variables. Alright, first step is let's come over here and say that this is my first equation, this is my second equation, and this is my third equation. So I have three equations, three unknowns. So the very first objective is I'm going to try to eliminate one of these variables and make it two equations with two unknowns. And then we've solved equations with just two variables in it. So if I look at this, I can see that this equation is set up to do process of elimination because the x's are over the x's, the y's are over the y's, and the z's are over the z's. So I'm going to use the elimination method. And I'm going to look here and strategically pick a variable, my first variable to eliminate. So it looks like I can eliminate my x's very easily right here. So I'm going to choose x's. So step one, pick the variable you want to eliminate. So pick your first victim, your first elimination variable. Okay, so I'm picking x here. So what that means is I want to combine two equations and get rid of the x's. Well, I can combine 2 and 3 very easily. So if I do this, if I go equation 2 plus equation 3, that's going to give me a brand new equation, and that will give me, we'll call it equation 4. So my equation 4 comes from combining 2 and 3. So let's do this quickly, but make sure we don't make mistakes. So 2x minus 2x, that cancels out. Negative 4y minus 3y is negative 7y. Negative 2z plus 3z gives me a positive z. 4 minus 23 gives me a negative 19. Okay, so here's my fourth equation. Alright, and I got the fourth equation from combining 2 and 3. So I can't combine 2 and 3 again because I already have that equation. But I want to eliminate x by doing a different combination. So I can combine 1 and 3, or I can combine 2 and 1, but I've already combined 2 and 3. So let's see. Well, the first thing that I can see is if I take equation 2, I can make it a little bit simpler by saying, let's divide everything here by 2. So if I do that, well, 2x divided by 2 is just x. Negative 4y divided by 2 is negative 2y. And then negative 2z divided by 2 is negative z. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, I didn't change the equation though. This is still 2. I just divided everything out by 2. It's like saying that 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. I just simplified it. Okay, so this is equation 2. Now, equation 2 doesn't look like it can combine with 1 and cancel out unless I do another manipulation. So let's multiply this whole equation here. Let's scoot this over a bit. By 3. And when I do that, I'm going to get another adaptation of equation 2. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2y is negative 3y. Negative 6y. Three times negative z is a negative 3z. And 3 times 2 is 6. Alright, now you can see that this is still equation 2. Now what I'm going to do is let's combine 2 and 1 and come up with another equation. So let's bring equation 1 down here, and I'll write it in. So equation 1 is 3x minus 4y minus z is equal to 0. Now when I combine these, I will get a fifth equation. Okay, when I'm adding 2 and 1, we're going to come through, and negative 6y plus 4y, well that gives me a negative 2y. Negative 3z plus z, that gives me a negative 2z. And 6 plus 0, that gives me a positive 6. So this is my fifth equation, but I can see that it simplifies, so let's divide everything by 2. So that gives me a negative y minus z is equal to 3. I'm going to call this my fifth equation now, and it only has y's and z's in it. So if I bring this over to my fourth equation, and I add this, combine these two equations, I can eliminate another variable. So let's add these equations. Negative 7y minus y gives me negative 8y. The z's cancel out. Negative 19 plus 3 gives me negative 16. Therefore I can solve, and I get my y is equal to 2. So I just solved for my first unknown. Y is equal to 2. Now we're going to use that and solve for the second unknown. So I can solve for z. If I bring this up into this equation, let's bring y is equal to 2. Let's bring this equation down and say negative y minus z is equal to 3. Well, we know that y is 2, so negative 2 minus z is equal to 3. I'm going to add 2 to both sides, so I get negative z is equal to 5. Therefore, z is equal to 5. That is my second unknown. Z is equal to 5. And now we're almost done. We have two variables. We can solve for the third variable very easily. And it's an important note to make that you can use any one of these equations with an x and any equation with an x in it, and you can solve for it. So I can choose any one of these equations. So what equation I'm going to use is right here. I can see that this equation, before I multiplied it by 3, had x by itself. So let's use this equation and solve for x. So I'm going to bring this down here. And I'm going to solve for my x. Now before I substitute in my y and my z, let's isolate my x. So I'm going to do that by adding 2y to both sides and by adding z to both sides. And I still have my positive 2 on this side. So now let's substitute in my variables for my y and my z. So I have, oh, there's a mistake over here. Z is negative 5. You might have caught that, but I caught that right now. Notice because I showed all my work, I could catch that mistake. So 2 times 2 plus z is negative 5 and plus 2. So that becomes 4 minus 5 plus 2. Well, 4 minus 5 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 makes x equal to 1. So So I get x is equal to 1. That's my last unknown. And now the very last thing, and this is an important step, is to make sure that I did it right by checking my answer. So I have x is 1, y is 2, z is -5. It's very easy to make a mistake here. So make sure that you're checking your answer. So let's bring our answer all the way up to the top. And let's check this. So really quickly, we have 3 times 1 is 3. My x is 1. Minus 4 times 2, so it's 3 minus 8. Minus a -5, so that becomes a positive 5. So 3 minus 8 is -5 plus 5 is equal to 0. This one checks out. Let's try the second one. 2 times 1 is 2. -4 times 2 is -8. -2 times -5 is a positive 10. 10 plus 2 is 12 minus 8 is 4. So that one checks out as well. And the last one, -2 times 1 is -2. -3 times 2 is -6. And 3 times -5 is -15. -15 minus 6 is -21. -21 minus 2 is -23. All three check out. So this is my solution to my 3 equations.